Alabama football is now a week away from kickoff. They'll take on Western Kentucky. We're going to talk about what goes into preparation game weeks. Did Alabama really illegally recruit kicker Graham Nicholson? Is that why he came to Tuscaloosa? Like his head coach said, whether he was serious or not in an interview. We're going to get into that and more right here on Elephant in the Room, part of CoverCrimson.com. He's Jay Coker. I'm Mick Gillispie. Like and subscribe, and let's get this thing started. Roll Tide. All right, guys, what do you say? That's Jay Coker's body, and I'm Mick. Oh, there he is. What's up? You get everything adjusted over there?
Yeah, we're getting there. It's been a long week, Mick. Been a long week.
Well, just think next week we'll have our first tailgate show together. We got a bunch of stuff going on with the football season, and we'll get to see what the Kalen DeBoer era looks like 6 o'clock on Saturday.
Yeah, it can't get here fast enough. At least we get a little tease this weekend. Florida State, Georgia Tech. Been enjoying a little bit of Pat McAfee and Coach Saban over there, enjoying themselves. I don't know if I've seen Coach Saban look more uncomfortable sitting in a bar, not drinking while McAfee's getting hammered on Guinness.
I like McAfee for that. We need to hang out with him.
Yeah. Looks like they're having a good time.
Yeah, it looked like it'd be a fun show. I mean, that's kind of the way I wish we could do it, right? Go over there and cover a Bama game. Could you imagine Bama going over there to play?
I imagine we will be. I imagine we will be doing the tailgate show like that a few times.
Oh yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, that's what the tailgate show is all about. All right, so we're at that point now where it's time to start thinking like depth chart as a player. You know, when do you find out who's going to start in these real tight battles? Do the coaches pull you in the office? Is it something that you just find out, you show up and they're like, hey, you go in, Coker, you're out so-and-so. I mean, how does all that work? Or how
it was kind of strange going into that Wisconsin game my senior year. When I was at Florida State, Jimbo made that announcement, I want to say the week before the opener. And he made that in a team meeting in front of everybody. And so it was known throughout the team. And that week of practice going in, we all had defined roles. And, there were no hiccups in practice. Everybody knew where they were supposed to be, what they were supposed to be doing. I mean, from a quarterback perspective. When I was at Alabama, Coach Saban didn't make the announcement, in front of the team. He called each guy to his office, me and Cooper to his office, and we just he set us both down and told us that I was going to start that Wisconsin game, and I don't think anybody knew. I remember I was sitting next to Robert Foster and Ardarius Stewart and Calvin on the bus, and I told them, just in a private conversation between us, but the whole team didn't know who was starting until I think, I went out and took the first snap of that Wisconsin game. I mean, didn't formally know. I think everybody kind of had an idea, but, it wasn't some big announcement that Coach Saban made.
So why? Why did he do it like that? Is that a tactical thing? Like, hey, I don't want the other team to know who we're starting. Is it because he didn't want guys to transfer? Is it because he didn't want, anyone to think that the job fight was over, that there was still a competition? Well, I mean, why do it like that?
I'm not sure. I mean, that was always, look, I didn't, Coach Saban is the best college coach or best coach to me that's ever lived. I mean, it's hard to question anything he does. But that was one thing that I was a little confused on when I was playing, honestly. Just because I think, when you announce it to the team, it kind of defines roles and there's no confusion on offense. when this quarterback should be in there, when that quarterback should be in there. There's no disarray during practice. Everybody's where they're supposed to be, and you're not wasting time interchanging guys when you should be getting reps in. And the guy that's named the starter can take command of the offense, and I feel like communicate a lot better as the starter rather than the guy that everybody's kind of like looking around. Who's the guy? Who's it going to be? And do I follow this guy? Do I follow that guy?
Yeah.
Guys are taking sides, and so I think it's better personally when it's a little more organized and everybody can back the guy that the coaches are backing.
Yeah, right. And that eventually happened for you, and that eventually happened for Jalen Milroe last year. Very similar when Milroe was at the beginning of the year. But he gets another year to do this. As a matter of fact, he could come back again next year if he wanted to, from what I understand. But he's kind of said, hey, this is my senior year. And so he is at the helm. And I feel like I really just feel like that's a good thing for the team. I mean, like, you know that he's the starter. You know that Ty Simpson's the backup. He's kind of gotten better and better. We've talked about the things that Ty Simpson brings to the table. Maybe a little bit different skill set than Jalen Milroe, but two really good ones. And then you got a couple guys in that third spot that are both really good. Alabama has a really talented quarterback room.
Yeah, it's different than it's been in a long time. I mean, early on in Coach Saban's career, I feel like prior to Coach Saban being there, you had a starter and you had a backup, and things tended to move along chronologically. The second stringer usually ended up being the starter afterwards. At least that's what I feel like I remember. Up until about, I guess, 2014 is when you started seeing all these quarterback battles that never ended. Which, when you have a starter throughout the offseason, I think, when you're having 7-on-7 in workouts, you got a defined starter who's a leader. I think, it makes that image a lot more clear. When you have an entire offseason as the starting quarterback to take the reins and further reinforce your role, I think it creates a tighter knit unit. Again, defining roles are huge in football. I mean, I think it's the same really in any kind of atmosphere, but definitely football among 18 to 22-year-olds. And you can look to a guy, he's on time, he's doing what he's supposed to do. That's the guy that you can look up to and really learn from. I think it completely changes, the outlook of a season. And when you have that backup like Ty, who's been there, he's been a stable backup. I think, hopefully nothing happens to Ty Simpson, obviously. I mean, Jalen Milroe, but if something happens to Jalen, you got to feel pretty good about Ty coming in there. I feel like he's plenty capable of being a starter in other places around the country.
How do the players react when someone wins or loses a job, like the quarterback, or like with Alabama right now? This Wilkin Formby and Elijah Pritchard are battling out for that right tackle spot. I think they're both going to be utilized. I don't think that the loser's not going to play. I just think that somebody's going to end up in that spot, and then somebody else they're going to end up playing. But that's one. And then Deshaun Jones, the transfer from Wake Forest, is probably going to be the guy at cornerback just because of experience. But Xavier Brown is pressuring for that job over there. One of the talented three wide cornerback high school guys that were in high school last year. Jalen Mbakwe, one is the other one, right? And Zay Mincy. But those three guys they're fighting for positioning. I just think that with the experience, it matters a lot in the first couple games. I'm guessing that it'll be Jones and then Damani Jackson on the other side of the field. But when someone loses that battle, what do you guys do? Like, how do players react to that? Do they support you? Does nobody talk about it? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of support. I mean, I'll say this. There's a lot of support, especially for guys that are well respected within the locker room that show up, do what they're supposed to do, work hard. but every now and then you get a guy who feels sorry for himself, doesn't accept that role as a backup, or a rotational guy, and takes plays off due to feeling sorry for himself. And now those guys, I feel like, lose a lot of respect pretty quickly because, even though you're a backup, it's a huge responsibility to be able to go in there and not miss a beat as a starting unit. So, look, at Alabama, I never really experienced anybody not picking up one of their teammates. Look, in that era, it was national championship or bust. So everybody, understood how important it was to be a good teammate. And again, you can't win without solid backups. That's one of the differences at Alabama is the guy that's coming off the bench. A lot of times is still, either he's a young, soon-to-be first-round guy, or he's still in that, especially on defense, that third to sixth round type talent. So obviously there's a lot of talent, but everybody also understood that, you're a backup at Alabama. You can still play, and you're very essential to winning a game because, as over the years, Alabama's had a lot of injuries and a lot of backups step up and make, play big roles on championship teams. So, it was always a pick me up, and you better not feel sorry for yourself.
Yeah,
because you still got a big role to play in case something happens, and you're still probably, unless you're a quarterback, you're still going to get into the rotation. You better know what you're doing when every play is called.
Did Nick Saban ever address something when and maybe a battle kind of didn't go well for somebody, or somebody was I don't know, feeling sorry for themselves, and Coach Saban kind of helped them get out of that? Or, did you ever even notice anything like that?
Yeah, usually guys that have trouble not playing tend to have some trouble off the field too.
Oh yeah.
And, a lot of times they get, I feel like Coach Saban, he'd dish out some punishment, and either you're going to leave or you're going to get your act together. And, for most guys, he provided, this is my take at least, I felt like he provided enough support to keep them wanting to play at Alabama. And, if they believed in the message and loved Alabama, they'd stay. But if they were a lost cause, they were just going to leave.
Right.
And I don't think Coach Saban ever really, completely judged a guy if he had a bad attitude at any one point. He tried to bring him back and do everything he could, to create the best career possible for every player. And I think he felt a real responsibility for every player he brought to Alabama. But you can't overcome or coach a good attitude. And so eventually, if that you keep that bad attitude for long enough, it's just not going to work out.
Yeah. And honestly, that's been one of the most amazing things about the Saban era is that I remember when Shula was coaching, some of the stuff that I would hear that was going on behind the scenes where there wasn't a lot of discipline. And then some of that would spill out to the games. And that a lot of that stopped, and then, Alabama kind of had a way of doing things, score a touchdown, hand the ball to the official.
Yeah, well, Coach Saban recruited good guys. He did. And you're talking about 18 to 22-year-old guys who make mistakes. If you sit here and tell me, there are some Tim Tebows out there that do, that you feel like do everything right all the time.
Yeah.
But that's a 1%er right there. 18 to 22, you're playing at Alabama. There's a lot of perks that come with that, and you're not always, hardly ever, if ever, are you prepared for that type of atmosphere and that kind of treatment. So, guys did get in trouble, but you know what? Coach Saban did his best to keep them around and make sure that they were able to fulfill the potential that they had. And again, mistakes were made, guys got in trouble, but, he understood that and he did his best to, not only have them look, it was very important that they performed on the field for Alabama, but furthermore, to get their education and be able to, be prosperous past Alabama. And I think that was the ultimate goal. And a lot of guys that have left Tuscaloosa under Coach Saban have done well because of it.
John Talty had a book come out, and one of the chapters is about Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin. And I don't want to talk about that right now. We're going to talk more about Lane Kiffin down the road here on covercrimson.com. But right now, I just want to talk about the Nick Saban. You talk about a guy that was able to control the narrative, man. I've never seen anything like it. Like there was always a part of me that when I worked for Crimson Tide Sports Network, I also did a show with Ryan Fowler in Tuscaloosa. I was always afraid to say the wrong thing. Like it could get back to him, and that never happened, but I never would say anything, like, what do you really think? Like, it's going to be a great game Saturday. You know what I mean? Because if something got said that he didn't like, he had some henchmen that would come out and get you. And now that he's gone, like I feel like this. I still love Coach Saban, but he's not the coach anymore. And, you're seeing it with Coach Siski doing his podcast with my buddy Neil McCready. I love it. He gets on there and talks a lot of stories. He's a St. Paul's guy like you. But he tells a lot of stories. He doesn't always say who it was, but they talk about like, some really funny Nick Saban stories that if he's coaching, you can't talk about. Do you think that Nick Saban still has that long reach, even as a media person, or do you think like not a good idea, John, to write a story about Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin?
I mean, look, I'm not writing a book like that. I mean,
you don't want him showing up at your house.
Well, no, but I mean, at the same time, I know Coach Saban. I love Coach Saban. There could potentially be a story in there about me. So, I mean, we've all got, we've all said, whatever that is meant for the locker room and our coaches. And, that private conversations are meant to be private. And, I'm sure John Talty's looking for a nice little paycheck out of this book. So, I mean, I just, I wouldn't say anything that I wouldn't say to Coach Saban, I guess.
So you're also a lot closer to the gunfire than we are, like nothing that he wrote shocked me. I mean, as honestly, I knew it anyway, but maybe not everybody knows that stuff.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know all the quotes. Honestly, I found out about this book this morning on WNSP. I had no idea.
Hey, surprise, Jake, would you give us a comment on this book?
I was like, what?
Yeah. You played for Coach Saban and Lane Kiffin, and you and Lane are like this. Can you go ahead and tell us?
I was like, whoa.
Like we're on WNSP. You and me both. We got a show. Mondays noon to 1. So
yeah. Well, when something like that comes out, I'd at least like to be prepped on what was said before I'm asked questions about it. But yeah,
Did you realize at the time though that when you were there, that like you were there during a time when they could make a movie about all the shit that's going on? I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's incredible. I mean, you guys winning the national championship, all the characters and personalities, that all the stuff that John Talty and other people have talked and wrote about. Lane Kiffin is at Ole Miss. He's got the best team that Ole Miss might have had in our lifetime going this year. He's a story all the time. I mean, I loved it when he was on Paul Feinbaum and he just started to like jab Paul. Did you see that?
Yeah, the only thing about that though is, Paul loves it. That only helps Paul.
Paul let it break. He didn't even say anything. He just like, Paul rolled over like a scolded dog.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
I was honestly, man, all the shit talking that Paul Feinbaum does, for you to just roll over like a scalded dog like that. What are you doing?
Yeah, not a good look for Paul. I mean, that was kind of sad.
Like, all right, we're going to break.
Yeah, I mean, again, those books are, the thing about it, the bad thing about it, though, what I don't like is is Jimmy Sexton the one telling John Talty those conversations?
I don't know. See, I don't think so, because that has to be somebody else, because Jimmy Sexton in the book basically talked Saban into Lane Kiffin, and then Saban was getting tired of Lane Kiffin's antics, and I guess said something like, I can't believe I'm going to fire you for talking me into hiring this guy. The thing about Lane Kiffin to me is that the guy, he's definitely got some issues, but one of them isn't offensive coordinator. I mean, like you talk about like the success that this guy's had, and they really switched Alabama's offense when he came in and took over, right? I mean,
they changed the entire landscape of college of offense in college football. I mean, I know he was getting a lot of him and Chip Kelly they'd talk a lot about schemes and I mean, Lane was a big part of building that style, but had a lot of help from some of those West Coast guys, and it just wasn't a SEC thing at the time,
Well, it was the USC offense. I mean, I'd seen it before. It was USC's offense from back in the early 2000s when they had their run going. I mean, it was adapted from that. The Reggie Bush days,
but the RPO stuff was
that was the adapted part.
that was I hadn't at Florida State we had some quick answers, I mean, but I had never seen any kind of RPO game like that. I mean, that was just referees have kind of gotten pretty lax about having the offensive lineman downfield.
Yeah.
And that flag's not flying like it used to on those plays. I mean, because if they did now, they'd just be everybody would be getting penalized. But yeah, no, in terms of offense, we've said it before. I mean, if a lot of coaches had Coach Saban's mentality, college football would look a lot different. But if Lane had Coach Saban's mentality,
he'd be unstoppable.
He'd be right up there, with the best to ever do it.
Yeah. And you wonder, like, I've heard a lot of crazy stories about him. But you wonder, his father passed away. For me in my life, that was a big game changer for me. It really changes your perspective. I mean, his dad, one of the great defensive minds, but his dad was also one of the most respected guys in football. And you met him before. Everybody talks about Monty Kiffin, the not just being the guy that started the cover 2 or something, started his own defense. Yeah. The Tampa 2. Yeah. But also just being a guy that like people really loved to be around and learn from, and kind of was like that old school guy. And, so it's going to be an interesting year when you look at the talent that Ole Miss has, and how they're going to be able to, is this really going to work? I mean, they went in the transfer portal and got guys on the lines and stuff, like the interior guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know they've done a lot of work. I saw Coach Saban talking about it today, talking about both sides of the ball, especially interior linemen. He was, just saying that they've always matched up pretty well with us athletically, but just not up front. And Coach Saban seems to believe that they're going to match up with pretty much anybody in the country in terms of offensive linemen and defensive linemen. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting, and to have that type of talent that Lane had at Alabama is going to be dangerous. Ole Miss they're getting into some times that they've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
from what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's going to be
which I hate to see. But
we don't get to ruin their season for them.
Yeah.
All right, look, final thing here. I mean, we've just blown through a show. What is going on at practice when you get to the point where Alabama is right now? They have to be putting the scheme in soon. How does that work? When do they, for the first game, when do they start putting in the game plan?
Oh, it's had to have started now. I mean, I would imagine it started, but they probably have a good bit of Wisconsin wrinkles in there right now.
Okay.
I mean, I know they're getting prepared for game one. I keep forgetting that it's 2 weeks away. So yeah, they're probably really starting this week. But yeah, I would imagine they got some Wisconsin wrinkles in there right now. And but yeah, it's game week practice, I would think. But
Yeah.
game week practice with camp like periods. Of course, that's what it was like with Coach Saban. What they're doing now, I'm sure the practices aren't quite as long and intense. But I really don't know what those practices are structured like now. But I would imagine that it's game week type scenario. It's funny. I I was talking to Coach Saber. My first game day, my first Friday night before a game in Tuscaloosa, we went and watched a movie. And when I was at Florida State, I didn't know what other people did. I get to Alabama, and it was like literally the same exact schedule. And on Friday night before a game, I was wondering what that would be like, and it was the same exact thing as Florida State. And that's when I realized, Coach Fisher had taken a lot from Coach Saban. And Friday night, we're about to go watch a movie, same as what we do at Florida State. And I'm walking up the steps to go sit down. And as I'm walking up, Coach Saban's sitting there, and he hits me on the leg. He's like, "Hey, Jake, when you were at Florida State, what'd y'all do on Friday night?" And I was like, "Coach, this is the same exact schedule that we had at Florida State." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "All these guys, they leave and talk shit about me, but then they do the same damn thing."
That's so funny. That is funny. Graham Nicholson. He's the kicker that transferred from Miami, Ohio. Did you see where his coach was like,
I saw that.
Alabama illegally recruited him and kind of just lost his shit a little bit. And then
there's two things there. I mean, there's no such thing as tampering anymore. There's no rules anymore.
Right.
I mean, and I know that Alabama fans said, it was tampering with Caden, with Proctor. But, again, how do you put parameters on anything right now? The NCAA has no leg to stand on, in any way, shape, or form. They're so afraid of litigation. And again, there's no rules on paying players. There's no rules. How do you enforce anything right now?
That's right.
And then the second thing is, I mean, how are you going to get mad at Graham Nicholson or a player? And this is no shot at Miami of Ohio at all. I respect all these programs, kids working hard, pushing towards a goal. That is great, and I respect every program out there. But it's like we talked about with Keelan Russell at SMU. I mean, if you want to go there, that's great. But you've got an opportunity in going to an Alabama or a Texas or a big name school where, in this day and age with NIL, I mean, you've got an opportunity to make life-changing money.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen at Alabama with that kind of publicity, with that kind of platform. You can't. It's hard to knock a kid to go from Miami, Ohio to Alabama. I mean, it's just. I don't know how you can, and I don't think he was talking down to the kid, but it is what it is. I mean, Alabama coaches, they need a kicker. They reach out to. I don't know any of the backstory behind it. If If there was tampering, I have no idea. But
well, DeBoer said that he went in the transfer portal when they reached out to him.
Yeah. Which, I mean, who knows? Sounds good to me, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I feel like there's no rules anymore anyway, and the kid was going to leave no matter what. Didn't he win the
the
Groza Award? Yeah. I mean, he had to have known that was coming, and the kid performed well, made the most of his opportunities, got a chance to make more money at Alabama. It is what it is nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't necessarily like the rules, but that's the name of the game now, and you can't blame them. And I'm more than happy to have him at Alabama.
Roll Tide, man. Thank you.
You
have somebody watching his games.
And it's the same. It's the same thing with Proctor. If he wants to leave and go to Iowa and play there, be around his family, if he's happier there, then he needs to go there. And the fact that he turned around and came back to Alabama, I'm more than happy that he's back. But with no transfer rules really anymore, I don't know how you get mad about other coaches reaching out to players. It's going to happen. It's not going to stop unless there's some more regulation, that takes place. But as for right now, I don't know how you can get upset about that.
Guys, make sure you check out covercrimson.com. You can sign up for $1. If you get the annual membership, you get a Cover Crimson t-shirt, which is really sweet, by the way. But take advantage of that opportunity now and be a part of the message board. And also there's going to be a lot of exclusive content that starts next week. So make sure that you check that out. And also I want to remind you that our show is brought to you by MyBookie. We've all been there before. A weekend trip to the casino canceled because real life came calling. MyBookie's new and improved online casino is here to change the game. Dive into a truly realistic casino experience featuring the latest in slots, progressive jackpots, and live dealer action, all from the comfort of your own home. The MyBookie Casino provides a Las Vegas experience when the action is in your hands, and you don't even have to wear pants. Start at MyBookie today with a generous sign-up bonus using promo code NEXTROUND, and a revamped loyalty program ensures a host of exclusive VIP perks. The more you play, the more you win with MyBookie. We will talk to you guys again on Monday. Got a lot going on, and then it's game week Monday. Roll Tide, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us.
Roll Tide.